Smith Wigglesworth, one of God's mighty generals, whose ministry was characterized by his faith in God and extraordinary signs, wonders, and miracles, although he was a plumber when he started. Guess what? We're going to take a look at his life and his ministry. One of God's generals. Maybe you are the next Smith Wigglesworth. Check it out. Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFN TV. I remember when Smith Wigglesworth had a visitor. It was Sumrall, Lester Sumrall. And when Lester Sumrall came over to see Smith Wigglesworth, and Smith Wigglesworth was just a powerfully used man of God, was a plumber called by God that just, massive healings and just everything. So you wonder, what does he do in his private time? Obviously, so many people think, why don't you, go do this? It's like, there's nothing greater than doing what we're doing. I mean, why would there be something else? I mean, like what? And so he comes over with a newspaper up under his arm, and he's going in there to visit Smith Wigglesworth at his house. And Smith Wigglesworth tells him right up front, he points at him, he says, "What's that under your arm?" And it was a newspaper, and he said, we can't bring that in. You can't bring that in this house. And so he took it and he threw it in the bushes, and he went in there and he had a meal with Smith Wigglesworth, somebody that was used powerfully by God. And you know what he did? He pulled out his Bible and he read scripture. And when he finished reading scripture, he goes, "That's it. It's been nice spending time with you. You got to do this again sometime."
Wow.
Because it's all about God.
Yeah.
It really is. We're going to spend eternity.
Yeah.
And our eternity is going to be based on what we're doing now. What are you going to do for him now?
Yeah. You're talking about Smith Wigglesworth. There was an account, a story that's been told about of his life. He had a powerful ministry, and talking about the church moving in power. This is a man who knew God, walked with God, and people would sit down. He'd be at a train station sitting down, and people would sit next to him, and they would feel such conviction. They would look at him and say, "Your presence just convicts me. Like, who are you?" This deep conviction. But there's an account of, because there was many reports and testimonies about all the things that had happened through his ministry. And this is a time with no texting, no email, no videos, no YouTube.
We say that because it's such a hard thing to grasp for today's generation.
Is. And so when you hear these testimonies,
trains and
you hear these testimonies, and you wonder. I'm sure they wondered how much of this was God, and So this story goes that these pastors went to go see Smith Wigglesworth, and they wanted to see, this source of power. And so he began to pray. He prayed often. He was praying in this room, and all of them said, "We're going to pray with Smith Wigglesworth." Well, as he continued to pray, the glory of God is just started to manifest, and it was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And as the story goes, each minister, one by one, had to walk out of the room because they could not be in the presence of God as Smith Wigglesworth was praying. Right. The very last minister said he's going to stay here no matter what, and he was just hanging in there. As the story goes, he had to crawl out on his belly for dear life, screaming the entire time, trying to get out the room, because it's just the power and the glory of God. And just Smith Wigglesworth was meeting God there in prayer. It's like they had to get out.
Yeah, dear Lord, that's what we want. I mean, you want to have that communion with God. And think about it. The only thing that keeps you or us from that communion is our choices. What choices do we make? And when you look at Smith Wigglesworth, he just didn't want to take in. He didn't sit there and watch CNN News all day long and let them broadcast negative things. Or obviously CNN News wasn't there, but the newspapers were there, just whatever was happening. And you just can't let anybody just speak into your life. It's going to mess with your faith. It's going to mess with your confidence. And Satan is really going to take over their tongue like he did with Peter and Jesus. I mean, think about this. That Jesus said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." Right? He said, "Don't go to Jerusalem," is what Peter said. He said, "You almost tempted me." This is Jesus. "You almost tempted me not to do the Father's will." So if Jesus could be tempted by a conversation by somebody who allowed their mouth to be used by the adversary, if you sit and watch media whose mouth is totally taken over by the dollar, that's driven by the dollar. Most of the folks are just talking heads, and nothing against that. That's a way of delivering things. But they're reading a prompter. And that's all been thoroughly gone over by a corporate world. Will this match with our sponsors, and will our advertisers stay with us? And you're releasing doubt. They're releasing doubt into your life. They're not having some contextual faith-based to it. I mean, even the secular media years ago would have, this is what Rick Joyner said. Rick Joyner of Morning Star Ministry said, he said, I don't know if the Lord had revealed this to him. Obviously he did, but how he got it, I can't remember. But he said in the 50s, in the 1950s in America, that people that didn't even know God, didn't even know him, feared him. But today, people who claim to know him have no fear of God.
Wow.
And it's like, that's not a good combo. That's not a good combo in regards to that. Be sure to subscribe and press alert to get new notifications of new success secrets made available on VFN TV. A lot of people want to abide with the Lord, but they just don't have a plan to do it. You can request that plan today at iabide.org. I'm your host, Greg Lancaster, and we're so glad that you've joined us. Don't forget you can join us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download our app and sign up for our newsletter, The Torch, at vfntv.com. I've enjoyed our time together. God bless.